rioters always get it more. Now, I do think there is a problem with Notting Hill.
If 61 police officers are assaulted, that's not very far away from being a riot.
Well, this is the first time.
Come on.
This is the first year that we have the assault on police officers as a specific crime, so it is recorded now differently, and so we have to check to see whether is there always a problem at this place, at Notting Hill, and other large events, and we know other large events also cause disobedience. And they need to be stamped down. But what Keir was talking about was the riots, which I don't think is the same as disturbances at Notting Hill.
I think disobedience is underplaying what happened over the weekend. John, two quite strong opinions there. But there's a problem. There is a growing perception in the country of two-tier policing. That's my belief.
There is that worry, and I think the Prime Minister has not helped with his very ill-judged speech today, because he's, as you said, blame the whole of society. He said, we're all guilty of this. And he says, we now live in a very divided society. Well, there's nothing wrong with divisions of opinion in a democratic society if they're expressed sensibly and if they're sorted out by the ballot box and by votes and arguments. What we don't want is violence. Violence is a crime, and the Prime Minister has sometimes spoken and said it's a crime. So he's now got to prove that he and the various police forces are fully enforcing the law in a totally fair way. Whoever is guilty of the violent crime. And I think you're right to say it's quite difficult drawing these distinctions, that this is definitely a riot and this is just people behaving badly. What we surely want is to deal with all crimes of violence as serious crimes. And we want a Prime Minister who doesn't blame the whole of society or think that Britain is a basket case, but a Prime Minister who's proud of our country and understands that most of us, most of the time, live good lives and are well-disposed towards our neighbours.
David Cameron and Nick Clegg in 2011 say about the riots there. They said there was something wrong with society, that it got to this stage, that initiated, of course, by the murder of an innocent black man, but, you know, kind of all spiralled out. They blamed, and they said that what we needed to do was look at how society, not individuals, and not, of course, political parties, needed to react to this.
Well, they were wrong as well, then, weren't they?
Well, I think they were probably right.
Mike,
what they did do is they initiated an inquiry, and I think we probably should see something similar like that on
Mike, Lloyd draws a distinction between disobedience at Notting Hill and rioting.
Right, OK. So let's look at apples and apples then. Let's look at the police reaction at Hares Hill, where they simply withdrew, allowed that community to burn buses. They just left people who were no doubt in their houses, feared for their lives. They were left to do that. Also, so that's one area of rioting which was completely different. But it's also the reaction to it. So in the past, when we've had things like the Brixton riots, now you can argue for the rights and wrongs, was there some real grievances around this? What would happen is, yes, there's been a riot, people are punished, and then there's an inquiry to say, why did this happen? Because then we can sort things out. With the rioting that took place, now you can argue, was it over Southport? Was it more general about immigration? Was there other causes? People not work? Most of the towns like Bolton, where I'm from, they're very poor areas and there's less jobs there. Is there underlying causes? But all you got from the Prime Minister is these are right-wing thugs, we won't do that's like you're going to be locked up. There was no discussion at all. So when you talk about two-tier policing, it's not two-tier policing as such. It is two-tier government, where they're setting these agendas, where people who are working class, white, concerns they've got are just dismissed, and if they do riot, they just dismissed as thugs.
If Mike is right in his analysis, then those divisions, that bad feeling that led to the riots is going to get worse, not better.
Well, again...
We hope not, but...
We hope not. In 2011, it was also... people blamed the EDL of whipping it all up, etc., as well, if you remember. The inquiry was launched a number of months after the rioting. It was deliberately launched after the bulk of the sentencing was completed. And then it took 3 years to go through, or 2.5 years to go through the mill. Now, I think it's probably too early for the Prime Minister to, at this moment, say, we need to do an inquiry, because they're doing the sentencing. And what you want is the quick overnight courts, which is what we've had in previous riots, to get that over and done with. I do think there is a problem with law and order more broadly in this country, that people genuinely feel that when they call the police, they won't get called out, or they won't come, and more importantly, that there is a lack of community policing. When people stole from the local co-op previously, and they were known figures, the community police support officer was able to react. We've seen huge cuts in those numbers of people. And it's not that you need detectives on the ground, but you need people who know the evidence on the ground, who can work with people.
Gentlemen, thank you. Something is going very wrong. I'll finish this segment by just repeating that more than 147,000 people accused of offences, including sex crimes, violence and weapons possession, were given community resolutions in the year to March. There is societal breakdown. Of that there is no question whatsoever.